This is like day 5 in a row of doing a Coleman Hawkins topic. But hey, when it's June and there's not a lot of players in the portal and someone who is so near and dear to this channel's hearts, we're probably going to talk about developments a lot when there are twists and turns with this recruitment. Hey, Coleman Hawkins is visiting Louisville. That's the news today. And this is important. Why? Well, one, I think it's a really good chance he could end up at Louisville. And two, I said like a week ago, there's no chance Coleman Hawkins ends up at Louisville. I'm here to eat my crow, Brian. I'm here to acknowledge that it looks like I was very wrong. And I think I'm willing to just say I was wrong. It looks like this could be headed to Louisville. Brian Ralph is here with me instead of Carter today. So we're going to get some fresh perspective on Coleman Hawkins instead of just me and Cart beating this to death. Brian, what's your general stance on Coleman visiting Louisville? Are they the leader in this recruitment right now?
It would make sense if they are. They have money to spend. They are desperate to get good again. Coleman Hawkins would immediately, I think, elevate them to I would say, surefire NCAA tournament team or surefire NCAA tournament expectations. He fits Pat Kelsey's style of play. I think that up-tempo style is perfect for the way Coleman Hawkins plays. I wonder the amount of social media videos we would get with Coleman Hawkins and Pat Kelsey. Like the amount of content to just come out of that would be absolutely insane. I know Coleman Hawkins said he wanted to go somewhere where there's football, and Louisville, depending on the era and the year you're at Louisville, I guess that counts. Um, but I think it makes sense. We're at a point now where aren't as many chairs available in the musical chairs. Louisville, I think, can offer and is offering as much and as I think as many appealing things as anybody possibly can.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I regret writing this off immediately. Because you're right. I think the way Pat Kelsey's teams play is actually kind of a dream for Coleman Hawkins. Like his creativity, his passing, his
Mm-hmm.
shooting, all is perfect. It would be great. It would be fun. He would make them better and more interesting for sure. I stand behind the sentiment of what I said a week ago, which was essentially like Coleman can do better, which is not meant as a diss to the Louisville, the program. I respect Louisville, the
Right.
program, immensely. I just don't view their roster as a roster that will compete for a championship with Coleman Hawkins on it or not on it. And I expected Coleman would end up on a team that had an opportunity to do that. It appears I might have been wrong, though.
Well, I think it's still fair to see where the chips fall. Right. I don't think you're wrong in having that thought. I still honestly have some of that thought because what's the big difference between like Louisville and Illinois right now? Like as state of their programs, what they're projected to be next season. Obviously, Illinois has been competing for Big Ten titles, and Louisville has been Louisville the past couple of years. Big difference there. But two historically prominent programs who, as it projects to this next season, don't project to be competing for a championship. And Coleman Hawkins has been competing for something, for a trophy of some kind, pretty much every year he's been in college. So the expectation, if you're moving on from that, is to go chase that again, go chase the big one. The schools he was linked with originally, the North Carolinas of the world, Kentucky's of the world, Arkansas's of the world, were more in the national championship conversation. I know not Kentucky necessarily now, but it's Kentucky. We're more in that conversation than Louisville is. Again, I think the fit is good. I think makes a lot of sense when you take the championship part out of it. But I do think the thought was, and may still be, he hasn't made a decision yet. I know that there is not necessarily an expectation he's going to commit this week when he's at Louisville. Um, I think the expectation is that was going to play a major factor in what he was looking for, and
Yeah.
Louisville doesn't check that box.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is. If you're making the sheet of like, okay, what matters here? Money, good offense, coach you'd like to play for, prestigious program, relevant program. Okay, Louisville's 4 for 4. And I don't know how many other schools, at least the ones that Trilly reported, Kansas State and SMU, I don't believe would be 4 for 4. And maybe there aren't that many schools in the country that would be 4 for 4. So Obviously, him going on an actual visit to Louisville is massive. That to me, as far as we know, it's the first visit Coleman Hawkins has taken since entering the portal away from Illinois. We can talk about likelihood that he lands there before we end the video. Before we do that, yesterday we told you it was down to 3 because that's what was being reported, and there was always the possibility more schools could enter this, but they don't know if they have the money. Right now, it's like 3 that have been on Coleman. I guess I want to dive into that a little more. Do you believe that this is actually down to 3, or do you think there are going to be more schools entering as we go here?
I think there'll be more schools entering as we go here. And this is not related, but also related. The Yukon jacket that you were wearing, like there may be a flux of guys hitting the portal if Dan Hurley leaves. And I think there's going to be more teams that may have been okay with their rosters, maybe getting back in the mix of things. If you get back in the mix of things, you're going to get back in the mix of Coleman Hawkins too.
Yeah, I agree. And for what it's worth, I did do a little digging here. I had I don't want to play the source game source, but I had a back and forth with I believe someone who would know what is going on in the Coleman Hawkins recruitment. It's not Coleman Hawkins. Guess what? I know we've had back and forth with him. It's not Coleman. Uh, they told me that there are more schools that want Coleman to come visit, and it's not down to 3 by any means. So my expectation is exactly that. I think Louisville has the lead right now. That would be my read on everything. Like, this is the only school he's ready to seriously consider. Maybe there will be more that work their way into that conversation, or maybe he'll go to Louisville and absolutely fall in love with it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a no-brainer. That could happen. Let's do fit, because I feel like I just kind of flushed it aside the first time. If he ends up in Louisville, what do you think the basketball fit is? Like, obviously it's a good offense, but like, is he their best player? Is he their starting 4? Like, what does it look like personnel wise?
So he obviously starts. I think whether you put him at the 4 or the 5 doesn't necessarily matter because Louisville does not have like a true 5, right? So he may play the 5, but whoever those 4 and 5 are, the true big men are going to be more face up, perimeter oriented guys anyway. I think that in general, Coleman Hawkins or no Coleman Hawkins, that leads to questions about rim protection for Louisville. Coleman Hawkins doesn't eliminate those, certainly, but he does add, I think, their best offensive piece or their most versatile offensive piece. And that's exactly what Pat Kelsey wants from his guys 1 through 5, but particularly at the 5. Having, essentially a secondary hub he can run his offense through. You can do some pick and roll, pick and pop stuff. Pat Kelsey gets creative when he has a big man who can be versatile and handle the ball like Coleman Hawkins can. Like, I think there's potential if he commits there for Kelsey to unlock something that maybe Brad Underwood wasn't able to just because of Kelsey's offensive philosophies and his creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing with Brad for me was like he changes everything he does to fit the personnel of his team. And it kind of made him and Coleman the perfect pair for me because Coleman can do the same thing. But
Yeah.
with that said, I don't think Coleman's ever been on a team, at least the college level, maybe even back to high school, back when he was playing out west. Like, I don't think he's ever been on a team that has built itself to do what's best for Coleman. It's always
Yeah.
been like, we're going to do what's best for Terrence Shannon. Coleman fit in here. We're going to feature Marcus Damask, fit in. And that's one of the best things about Coleman's game is he's unselfish and he can do so many different things that it works and he can mold himself around the stars. At Louisville, I think there's an argument that he would be the second best player on the team. Maybe even best. Like, I love Terrence Edwards, but I'm really high on Coleman Hawkins. And to
Yeah.
me, if he's on that team with the roster as currently constructed, he's a top 2 player on it. And I think he would be featured in a way he might not be elsewhere, like if he were to end up on a blue blood.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've kind of talked myself more and more into this as this goes. I think this could be a really good landing spot for him.
I already think Louisville is one of the more interesting teams going into next season just because Kelsey has built a lineup, one, of all transfers, but number 2, extremely versatile pieces.
Yeah.
Like up and down the roster, up and down the rotation. So now you throw perhaps the most versatile player in the country in that mix as well. I think it just increases that interest and intrigue factor exponentially.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. All right. This could have many more twists and turns. As we know, all portal recruitments are weird, and certainly Coleman Hawkins is a player in demand that could end up in a variety of landing spots. We'll cover it as this goes. Thank you, Brian Ralph, for your insights here. Subscribe to the channel so you can see everything else that we do on Coleman Hawkins. The NBA draft is coming up, and I've got something awesome for you. We are partnering with the people at NBA 2K Lab. NBA 2K is the best video game on earth. The people at 2K Lab are making some awesome stuff to make that game even more fun, and they just launched their 2024 NBA Draft Simulator, where you can find the official Sleepers Media big board. We ranked our top 75 players in this draft class. Me, Carter, Brian Ralph, Riley Davis. We did it together, and it is featured on the 2K Lab NBA Draft Simulator. You can take control of any team in the draft, play GM with just one click, and see our entire rankings before these videos even come out. Check out the link in the description of this video to try out the draft sim for yourself, and you can find more mini games at nba2klab.com/NBA-mini-games.